Working with larger kids in cerebral palsy, what are some key steps you have to take with guys? First of all, when you're evaluating, and this will get covered in the neuromuscular clinic, do you even have any of your gravitational reflexes? In most cases, in Maxis spastic quad CP, you do not, meaning the absolute horizon didn't even present. So then, therefore, none of the primitive reflexes are capable of presenting, because you can't have a reflex without gravity. Don't believe me? Look at NASA. There's no reflexes in outer space. So when you're looking at that, first of all, okay, now we've got to go down to the 5 functions. 5 functions meaning, first of all, where were they with breath, balance, and heart functions? Okay, so structurally we're off, because when you're working with a larger child, I can tell you right now, you've got coccyvalga, and you've got possibly subluxations, you've got narrowing of the pelvic region. So now we got to look at why these happen. First of all, I can tell you the breath reflex didn't come into play. There was complications of breathing in the first reflex. With the larger kids, guys, you've got to go after the breathing course first. The breathing course is your number 1. First of all, it's going to get your touch much better, because you tend to be more dominant. The kids, they're just, they're bigger, they're moving, and you want to hold them. You can't hold this. What they're saying is they're almost in a free fall. And so you've got to get that breath going, because gravity the complexity of gravity and the ease of gravity, right? Gravity's easy, guys. We're not sitting there going, oh my gosh, all my hair is getting pulled out of my head. Gravity is a very, very easy force that we deal with when we're okay. That's why gravity is such a point with me. I can tell from 50 yards away if someone's got an issue with gravity, right? And so if they have an issue with gravity, the prevention of a fall, or deviations into fall, or those kind of things, or again, so with cerebral palsy, you're counter oppositional to that, because to them, the gravity is so hard because they don't have rotation, and I'm fighting. And so people go after the spasticity and all of that. Guys, you're not looking at the source. The source is you did not have that good first breath in opposition to gravity. So the brain didn't set up, oh, this is what gravity is. And that's how it tells, by your breath. And so the breathing course has got to be number 1, okay? Second of all, you've got to look at where the skeletal structure is. With the larger kiddos, again, one of the complications and mortality rates for cerebral palsy is literally their rib cage crushes the lungs, right? They can't breathe past, a certain age, because the lungs are now adult base, and the chest cavity is just not expanding. That's why tummy time isn't so important. Tummy time gives you the breath, and the spine, and the ribs, and all of this. Baby, we all should be able to breathe in all directions. You can't with CP, right? Breathing is almost inflected. And so when the diaphragm misshapes, especially like that, if there's a scoliosis in that, now respiratory responses get really bad. The second thing you have to look at with long-term cerebral palsy, what meds are they on for seizures? Because if they have Keppra mouth, right, the thickening of the gums and all of that, that's from Keppra, right? So one of the side effects of a seizures meds is it thickens the gums, but it also sickens the palate. This is where it gives it very hard to breathe. You get that snork, not a snore, but like a, right? And there's that. And 2, if they've been intubated. A lot of kids have an epnoid jam due to, from being intubated. So that's why they're here. And especially if the lips are pierced like a sparrow, that's because they've been intubated. Ethnoid jam, when they did the intubation, and then they taped that around, and that gives that really small, the canines want to come in, it misshapes the palate there. So now if you have Keppra mouth and all of that, so you really want to do the cranial work. You can do the cheap way as a swallow course, but for the kids that, you really need to be a practitioner, I would just get the whole cranial package, because you've got to open that up. Lots of times too, there's because of the prematurity, they were laid in the cranial synatosis, gives them the sagittal fusion kind of thing, and they get the very narrowing of the head. That's another thing to do, look at their balance, their absolute horizon. Are they able to lie down? And then on top of that, do they have a shunt? Water bowl technique. Guys, I don't teach a lot of techniques, but I'm telling you, water bowl technique is just gold. I don't care if you're working on the pelvis or if you're working on all of that. It's really, really important. And that's what you want to look at there, and start looking at, where your child is with water bowl technique. And so with those kind of things that you're looking at, those are your key things that you're looking at. But stepping over a child, forcing them down, trying to get them to be less spasticity, now Newton's law comes into play. So the difference between my theories of gravity and Newton's law, if you're holding someone, guess what? They're going to match that back, especially when there's no rotation. So when you're trying to get a kid to not back arch by using force instead of using rotation, right, you're going to get forced back. And so you're going to look to lock them down, and they just want to get stronger or more spastic, and that's not what you want either. So these are key things you want to look at when you're working with a child. I'm telling you, you want to get stronger with that touch. This is where you get gentler, and see if you can settle their system and let them lie down. I know when I was working with Cesarin, at first, he just me touching him, but I told him outright, I'm like, I'm not picking you up. I'll never pick you up. Like, that's what he was bracing for. Is like, oh, it's just ladies can pick me up. And he didn't like it. It took him a while for him to just go like, oh. And it's funny because he's got like 5 moans. And so for my moan, if I touch him, it's ha 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 ha. If Felipe touches him, he gets a ha ha, like, yeah, that's good, but is this not Michelle? And then he'll always fall asleep on me. And they always joke around, can you please come to me at like 9 o'clock at night and put him out? You know, I just let his system come down. I let his system breathe. And that's the first thing I did is I went in and positioned myself literally into where his body was at. His scoliosis was at a 79 at the time. I got him down to 54. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't breathe. And so that's where all of that really came from. And it's very important that these are your key steps that you work with. If you don't have these steps, you can work on all the what you think is functioning and patterning and positioning all you want. They will always protect the breathing balance. The heart functions first. It's just neurologically safe. It's what the body needs to survive, and that's where it goes to. So you need to acknowledge those systems and calm them down first before you can go on to the next. Thanks.